So first I want to welcome Jabara and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Jabar is a dear friend of mine and an esteemed colleague. He is a YouTuber, a lecturer, and a really awesome poet here from Greensboro, North Carolina. He is an alumni. He got his MFA in poetry from here, UNCG. His poems have appeared in the Freshwater Review, and he has a new chapbook, which is coming out on the 15th, Whatever Happened to Black Boys. And that was recently being published by the Texas Review Press, which is sorry, I'm still admitting some students. Which is a really reputable press. So congratulations, Jabar. And when he is not writing poetry or mentoring students, he's a phenomenal lecturer and student mentor and advocate, I must say. He spends his time in front of the camera. He's always reviewing books and movies and any kind of social issues that may arise on his YouTube channel. I know I dropped those links for you guys, so make sure you follow him and see what's up. Leave him some love. But without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and, oh, let me admit, sorry. There's going to be some more students coming out. Oh, more. Hold on. That's great, though. I hope everybody, I'd love for a full room. Awesome. Okay, so then without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to you, Jabar. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me. So today I do want to start with the two poems that I gave you guys. Actually, these two poems are the first poem, Here's What Happened to My Father, is the first poem in my book, and then Mud is the last poem in my book. Here's What Happened to My Father actually came about because I got into this mode of sort of trying to I was thinking about fairy tales for some reason. I randomly just ideas popped in my head. So I was thinking about fairy tales during this time. I was thinking about turning traditional white fairy tales and making them black centered. And I'll read the poem, of course, but I'll let you guess or guess what you think the fairy tale is based off of. Here's what happened to my father. Beautiful black boys can't help but be consumed by beasts, is how Mama started the story. She said that on his way home from a week's work out of town, picking cotton and cutting tobacco, he grew tired from travel and sought rest from strangers in Mitchell County. Everywhere he went, white palms turned outward, turned him away, until he came across an old abandoned plantation house, where inside he found purses, padded chairs, lampshades, leather shoes, velvet curtains, grandfather clocks, and hand-knotted rugs, all fashioned from the skin of former slaves. They spoke to him, whispered warnings of a blue-eyed monster that cursed them to an eternity as inanimate objects. But my father wouldn't listen. His curiosity sent him looking for the monster, and he found her standing in the middle of the parlor room, staring at a cotton stem trapped inside a glass case. Blonde fur covered her body, her face resembling a bobcat, ears pointed with a black eyelash accenting the tips, long white wispy whiskers falling on either side of her snout, and a fluffy beard that fell under either side of her chin. Her stature was human-like, and she pleasantly filled out a dress that matched the color of her eyes. He found her remarkable, but when he extended his tongue to let her know she could only give him what beasts are allowed to give, her teeth. A few months later, I saw him at a service station in town. Turns out he just didn't know how to be a father. So, anybody want to guess what fairy tale that is based off of?
Beauty and the Beast. Was it Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah, it was Beauty and the Beast. And so actually chapbooks are actually smaller versions of a larger work that poets are usually working on. I am working on a larger work. And these poems that are in this 26-page chapbook come from that larger work. The larger work is based around this case of the kissing case in North Carolina. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. Probably not. It's very little has been written about it, which is why I got interested in it. I don't know if anybody knows where Monroe, North Carolina is, but it's just a little bit outside of Charlotte. And where these two boys, 8 and 9, when they were in 1958, were essentially they were playing a game with some white children. In 1958, of course, it's segregation. And I guess they played this kissing game. The parents found out about it, and then they had the boys arrested and jailed and put in prison. And then After that, I guess there was a big sort of, movement, at least here in North Carolina, by some activists to get them out of jail. And I really was interested in writing that story because it's not really talked about. I came across it randomly on an NPR article, and there was not a lot in the NPR article, and that's what made me sort of like dig deeper into trying to find out, what happened to them and what happened after that, after they got out of jail, what was happening to their families. That poem, Here's What Happened to My Father, was specifically about one of the boys talking about his father. I just sort of reimagined it and reconstructed it to sort of fit a fairy tale sort of narrative. That I chose Beauty and the Beast because I thought that would be kind of fun and interesting. And also I kind of like the dark and twisted nature that fairy tales used to have before they got Disney-fied. So I usually try to make them a little bit darker. But my second poem, which is the last poem of the book, Mud, it came about, this was more of like, there was conversations happening online about respectability politics. I don't know if anybody knows heard that term before or not, but respectability politics essentially is about being respectable, that you should act a certain way, that you should, dress a certain way and talk a certain way, and therefore you'll get, respect, you'll be respected, and people will treat you the way you deserve to be treated. And we just all know that's not true. The common example, is to use is like, that talking well, being well educated, dressing up in your Sunday best didn't help anybody in the civil rights movement not get attacked, not get, also assassinated as well. People talk well, they got educated, they were devout Christians and all that good stuff, and it still didn't save them from racism or hatred. And so there were conversations happening like a couple years ago about, how Black people need to act during marches, how Black people need to act. There's still conversations about that going on right now, how you need to act during protests, how you need to act and be peaceful and all this other stuff. And really it doesn't, to me, it's never mattered. Like history is very clear. Like it doesn't really matter if you are respectful, peaceful, like if you are, actively, sort of against or in opposition to, the sort of status quo, then you are a threat, and that is just what it is. So this poem came out of that, and it is called Mud. Mud. You can't talk about a plant without the soil. You can't mention Black folks without the mud. Toe roots trapped between brown glue, but somehow we still manage to electric slide our way through the drum of thunder. When it rains, it's poison. My aunts, still kids at heart, two-step their way out of a downpour of droplets. Their locks once killed at the root. Our scalps have always needed protection from the rain, from the sun, the clouds, and the sky in this country. No weather has ever been good weather for us. So my cousin keeps a hat on his head, but every time he steps inside my grandmother's house, she slaps it off, frightens his curls that grow easier in the dark. To her, only those that wish to hide their thoughts from God cover their domes. He doesn't trust God, though. He lives with what crawls in the mud. He remembers when God told a man to name every living thing that creeps and crawls on the earth, and he named himself white, my cousin black, and the cylinders that squirm between his toes, Polydora ligni. Even the mudworm has a better second name than Black people, but we tried to make it beautiful, replaced the ER with A, took the growl out of the G, changed our inflection, paired it with a hug and a handshake, put it in our music, hung it round our necks in gold, grilled it to our teeth in diamonds, made it spin on our rims, hummed it during sex, greased our scalps with it. But my grandmother doesn't get it. Why doesn't he have some self-respect? Why don't he get a job? Why he act the way he act? See, this is why they don't like us. She forgets they threw her in the mud when she flat ironed her hair, wore dresses below the knee, read her Bible, gave up her seat on the bus, and went round back to order food. Ever since she was born, she's been trying to turn wet dirt into soil, but limestone and Black folks never grew in the same place. Today, my cousin just wants to lounge in the mud. He pulls his cap back and goes outside. Yeah. And also that poem also came from, I think we were having another conversation about the N-word again. So that conversation always comes up a lot. I think it recycles itself every couple of months, every like 6 months or so. They bring back up the N-word or who should use it and who should not, and and so I also added that part in there as well, for the whole respectable thing. But yeah, but I can open it up for questions. Question me about poetry, writing, or anything in general.
When did you find out that writing was a passion of yours?
When did I find out? I've always been a very avid reader. So as a kid, I was always a very avid reader. Like I love reading. I love reading fantasy fiction stuff. I moved more into later into my when I got into college and stuff, and later into my high school year, more dealing with like fiction, but more like real life people, not necessarily magic and like adventure and like all this very like the spectacle things. There's the novels and literature that sort of deal with spectacle, like Harry Potter and stuff and magic. But I was really into that as a kid, the magic and stuff like that. I grew out. I mean, I didn't grow out of it. I still like it, obviously. If you can tell from the poem, that first poem, I still like the sort of the magic of writing as well, and like adding that in there. I think writing is kind of magical in a way. But my writing didn't really start until I got into college. I wrote a little bit here and there in high school, but it wasn't nothing like I wasn't really serious about it. I was just kind of playing around. I didn't really get serious about it until I got into college, and I started like going into poetry workshops and getting into these spaces where people are also writing and creating, and I was like, oh, people do this. People do this for real. This might be something that I want to try, and I want to like get better at. So I think my college career and going into my freshman year, that really sort of moved me towards like wanting to like pursue it as like an actual career. But yeah.
Do you think you would ever write a script for a movie?
That's a good question, because actually, yeah, I mean, a script for a movie. I'm actually working on something right now. So I don't really like to talk about like if it's like underworks, because I really rough draft things. But like I am working on something right now. I've always been into movies and film and cinematography, and writing. I think my minor actually when I was in UNCG, my major was English, but my minor was drama. So I always was into playwriting. I'm really into like I love August Wilson. August Wilson, I don't know if you know who August Wilson is. If you've seen the movie Fences by Denzel and Viola Davis, yeah. So, and I also think Denzel is also doing like he got a deal to actually put on like a Netflix deal to put on a lot of his plays and turn them into movies. So I think that should be interesting. I think rest in peace Chadwick Boseman. He's in one of them. He's going to be in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which I'm probably gonna watch. But I've always been interested, like August Wilson. When I started reading August Wilson, like I got into like other forms of writing and like getting into like playwriting and screenwriting. That's really interesting to me as well. I'm trying to work on something right now. It's very rough. It's very rough in the rough drafts and like first stages of it. But like, yeah, I'm interested in it. I probably won't. I mean, the idea of it probably getting big or like, writing for like a big Hollywood thing, that's not really on my radar. But I have wanted to like expand like my YouTube and maybe doing like short, like scripted videos, and doing stuff like that, as I sort of continue, because I'm only like a year into YouTube. So like getting into doing documentaries and doing recordings and stuff like that, and also doing scripted sort of short sort of films on my YouTube channel is something that I'm interested in and looking into like getting into later on. But that's like, I'm thinking about that much down the road though. But yeah, I am into like play screenwriting and stuff like that.
So I do have a question. Why did you choose poetry specifically as your medium for writing your stories?
That's also a good question. So I don't really have. I write in. I like I said before, like I like screenwriting. I also like writing like short stories, and I have some novel ideas that I also want to consider as well and write about as well. I'm just like whatever mode or whatever genre sort of comes to me at that time, I kind of want to write in, but that's not how university is structured. So university, so when I was going into So I did a lot of poetry workshops. A lot of the poetry teachers, I didn't know what an MFA was when I when I was in my undergrad. I had no idea what in did I mute? Okay. Did you mute? Oh, my bad. When I was going into when I was in my undergrad, I didn't know what MFA was until they told me about it, and I was like, "Oh, you could do this," but you have to choose a lane. They make you choose a lane that you want to get into. You just can't like go to you can't just go into fiction writing and do poetry and all of this different stuff. You have to choose what you want to get into. So I chose poetry just out of like I guess that's what I had been writing in for most of my, college career. So I decided, since most of the teachers know me, I've been working with them, I might as well just go into that lane. But I am interested in a lot of different lanes. But, I plan to sort of, I want to, expand out, beyond poetry, even though I love poetry as well.
Just a minor question. Have you ever read The Hitchhiker's Guide to a Galaxy?
No, I haven't. Who's that by?
It's a very just sort of British dry humor sci-fi book,
Oh, okay.
and I thought you might like it since you like to read and fantasy.
Fantasy. It's called Hitchhiker's Guide
To the Galaxy.
Okay. I might check it out.
All right.
That's one that's been on my long time read list too.
It's great, let me tell you.
Just when you're in graduate school, you kind of only have time to read what they make you read, unfortunately. But yes, in my near future, I definitely, thanks for the book recommendation.
Yeah.
I can't wait to look it up. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute your mics and jump in the conversation. I went over your questions you posted on the discussion boards, and there's some great ones. So if you don't ask them, I'm going to ask you to ask them.
What was your inspiration behind the title?
So that larger book, I have another title for that book. But I had took some of the poems that more deviate from that larger work and put it in this book. They're sort of they're more, they deviate from the Kissing Case stories, and they're more about other Black boy stories that I was reading about at that time as well. And so I just sort of, I was like, I was just kind of like, whatever happened to Black boys? I mean, that's just it kind of just rolled off the tongue to me. It felt right because it felt like an exploration of what happened to these people. And I was also wondering, that was my inspiration for writing, was what happened to these people and what happened to these boys. So that's kind of how the title came about for this chapbook.
Okay, so I know that you like fantasy and fairy tales, kind of on topic, but what is your favorite like fairy tale, like overall?
What is my favorite fairy tale? Oh, that's a good one. What's my favorite fairy tale? I was always very interested. So I guess my favorite fairy tale would probably have to be Hansel and Gretel. Like, that fairy tale is very weird to me. It's very strange and very odd and very dark. It's one of the fairy tales that hasn't really been Disneyfied and also either. Like, a lot of the fairy tales have been like, their darkness has been taken out, but that's still, the darkness in that still remains. I'm really into dark and more like dark things. So I actually did a version of that. It's in my larger piece, my larger work, but I actually did one where the witch is actually like a grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. And Hansel and Gretel are like, become his workers essentially. So I made it even darker than that. I turned the Hansel and Gretel fairy tale even darker. Like, they become like, they get groomed by, I guess, the wizard / KKK member, and like they become his sort of henchmen, and they lure Black boys into the woods. So I sort of twisted even that one and made it even more darker than that. But I really loved the darkness of Hansel and Gretel, and these kids that went around into the woods and this witch, and I don't know, the weirdness of it attracts me.
How do you choose what stuff you like to react to on your channel, or what do you post on your channel?
That's a good. I don't really have like a thought process, a big thought process. Whatever kind of whatever happens. Right now, I'm doing sort of like I'm trying to, because I have very little time because of school now and teaching. So I've been I'm really interested in Lovecraft Country, which is also like cosmic horror, fantasy, drama, and all that, weird, dark stuff going on. So I've been doing like reviews of those, just to sort of post on my channel, reviews episode by episode of that. So it's just whatever I'm interested in at the time. If I see I also don't like to I don't like to go. I think on YouTube, if you're a new YouTuber, because I'm only a year in, you're supposed to do the popular culture stuff, and whatever happens right then, you need to upload it quickly and fast, and you need to get it out there so you can get, because everybody, there are bigger YouTubers on YouTube, so they get they go to the top of the list first before you. So I guess YouTube recommends that you get stuff out fast. I don't really work like that. I also am not interested in every popular thing that happens or every controversial thing that happens. It's just maybe if I see something happening where people I feel like have a consensus on something that I just don't agree with, I'll put in my 2 cents about it. And I'm like, okay, I saw this happening on YouTube yesterday. On the internet yesterday, on Twitter, and people having a conversation about it, and everybody's choosing this one side, and I'm just like, okay, well, I don't really agree with that, so now I'm going to talk about it and give my side. So that's kind of how I choose those social commentary things. For the movies and books and reviews, I just choose kind of whatever I like. But yeah, I don't know if my model for doing YouTube is the best for acquiring a lot of views and a lot of a lot of followers. But I just do it because I enjoy it.
Well, I do know there's some other aspiring YouTubers in this class. Maybe they have some other questions they'd like to ask about this.
Oh, for me, I started YouTube a year ago. It's been steady. I'm at 135 subscribers now. I don't really, I do something different. I don't just react to things that are happening like other people do. I don't just try to be on that wave. I don't really like that. I'll do skits and stuff like that. And I take time with my stuff because I feel like if you take more time with it and post it, people will gravitate towards your content more because you're like, oh, this was someone took their time on this. This looks nice and stuff like that. So I can relate to you on that. Not just going along on the same wave of everybody else.
Yeah, and YouTube has become very difficult for smaller YouTubers trying to sort of gravitate towards the site, just because it's become more commodified. Money has been put more into YouTube. It has advertised, you get ads on YouTube videos now. YouTubers are getting monetization. YouTubers are now hitting it used to be a small YouTuber wasn't that, it was actually small, you had 100, 200 or something 300, 500 subscribers. Now small YouTuber is 100,000 subscribers because people are now hitting 10 million subscribers on their channel. So of course what is considered small now is a little bit different. And then also you have the commodity, the money's coming into YouTube as well. And so of course when the ads and stuff come in, and also the restrictions, and it's also very hard for Black YouTubers who want to talk about Black things on YouTube, because YouTube doesn't find that very advertiser friendly. And so it's harder. And so I wouldn't advise it for anybody who's if you I think that's good that you're into doing it your way and making your stuff good. It's going to take longer, but I think it'll pay off in the long run. I think that, and you'll actually I feel like YouTube was about community. Now it's more about monetization, money. It seems to be more about that in a lot of spaces, and trying to, get as many subscribers as possible so that you can monetize your channel and then get money off of it and all this other stuff. So yeah, it's the past few years YouTube has been interesting.
I just wanted to say that I definitely agree with that. I make YouTube videos too, and lots of people like to come to me for advice on like how to start a channel. And I kid you not, like one of like the first things they say to me is like, "How much money do you make? Like, do you make money?" And I'm like, because it was weird. Starting off for me, like I didn't even know you could make money on YouTube. And
Yeah.
I never started it for the money. I started it purely because like I enjoyed it. And so like seeing like the whole like YouTube world kind of like shift is like weird. I personally miss like old YouTube where like it was like more of like a space where you could just like express yourself and like
Mm.
it wasn't like focused around money and stuff like that. So I definitely like know where like you're coming from and like understand that. It's yeah, something else.
Yeah, I had started YouTube because I was an avid YouTube watcher. Actually, uh, like I think YouTube started to really blow up after, I would say after the writer strike. Like Hollywood had this big writer strike. I don't know if anybody knows about it, but Hollywood they weren't paying their writers, and so all of these great scripted shows were not getting made anymore. And Hollywood decided, that's when the reality TV really blew up, because Hollywood was like, well, we'll just, it's cheaper just to have a camera, follow people around, the Kardashians and Love and Hip Hop stars and all these other people. It's just cheaper, it's not it's not a big production where you have to pay actors who are actually skilled at something, and you don't have to pay writers who actually come up with plot lines and storylines and all this other stuff. And you don't have to pay set designers. You just pay a cameraman to follow somebody around for a couple hours, and that's cheap. And then you get millions of views off of it. But at that same time, though, YouTube was also blowing up too, because YouTube used to be like an educational sort of platform where people where teachers and professors were using it for educational videos. Then people started to gravitate towards it, putting up like the skits and stuff, the skits and funny videos and also commentary and also doing vlogs and all this other stuff. So people started to gravitate towards alternative media, and YouTube was one of those. And it first started out as just fun, just fun. People were building their own little communities on YouTube. You'd have your own little community of like, however many 500 subscribers or something like that, and you just upload every once in a while. Now it's become more about a race towards money, because I think YouTube has its niches. So you have like your beauty and makeup people who are really like, they really blew up, in terms of making money on YouTube and stuff like that. You have your, reactioners, reactions to videos and stuff like that, your reactors. You have your lifestyle vlogs, your travel vlogs, your fitness vlogs. You have all these different niches. I got actually got into YouTube because I didn't see a lot of Black reviewers. There's a review space. And I wanted to first, my channel is built around like doing reviews on movies, books, and music. Which is like a no-no. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to pick like a lane. Either you do movies or you do music. I'm into both. I didn't really care, so I was going to do both. So I got into it because I didn't see a lot of Black reviewers, in the space. Reviewing is also very small as well. It's a very small little niche thing, but they've also been commodified, hooking up with like big Hollywood companies, and people now get paid to do good reviews, which I'm never gonna do. Like if I don't like something, I'm not gonna say that I like it. But I know YouTubers, like the big ones, who like, they now get paid to review movies by, these corporate executive studios that are coming out with these projects. They get to come in and watch the movie first. That's how they get, which is how they get, the review first, how they even see the movie to even do the review first before the rest of us. And so it's just become a commodified thing. But if you love it, you love it, and you'll continue to do it. But I don't know if it's like a space for like new YouTubers to make money. I think kind of like, if you didn't get on when it was first rising, I think the money is kind of like dried up at this point. People who sort of capitalize on that moment in time when people are looking for alternative media. They're really the ones that now have the 10 million and 8 million subscribers and stuff like that. So if you get into it now, it's kind of like you just should do it because you really enjoy it.
Who's your favorite music artist?
Favorite music artist? I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite per se. I have music genres that I really like. Excuse me, I'm plugging up this thing. I have music genres that I really like. Like I really love R&B. I really love soul music. I really love. I mean, I love like a lot of the. I love all the mixing that's going on right now in between genres, like trap soul and all this other stuff that's going on. Sometimes I think it's in a very like developmental stage. We're seeing the first of it, but I really like what's going on. I don't know if I have a favorite artist, like go-to artist. I listen to a lot of different things. It's just whatever catches my ear at the time. I really liked the last album I listened to. I think it was on my channel. It's probably that Chloe and Halle album. That one was really good, and it's also a mixture of like, you have pop records, you have house music on there, there's R&B, there's like classic soul on there on that album. So I really love that album and how they mixed a whole bunch of genres together to make that album. But that was the last thing that I listened to that I really enjoyed.
Was there maybe something you found yourself listening to a little bit more while you were writing the poems for your book?
So when I write, I really like quiet, because when I listen to music, like I get, that's what I focus on. It's hard for me to sort of pay attention because I'm paying attention to like the instrumentation and the vocals and the lyrics and all that stuff, and I'm really like technical and like how it's all working together. So I need kind of quiet. I'm not the one that usually puts on music to start writing. I usually need like to clear my mind and like just have silence.
Well, I'm glad you brought up how you like tend to be a very technical writer, because Graham asked a really great question. You posted it on the discussion board. Do you mind sharing it, Graham?
Which question were you talking about?
Do you mind if I share it? I have it.
Yeah, you can share it, please.
Sure. Graham had asked, what significance does portraying different stories in different lyrical structures give to your book?
Yeah, I think that it's almost like I kind of say, because they had me write sort of the like pitch for it, like pitch your book to us when I was sending it out. And so essentially I was like, it's kind of like every boy is singing their own song. Because they're all in different forms. They all of the poems are in different shapes and they're in different lyrical and formal structures. And so it's almost like they're singing their own individual songs. And I like that idea of individuality, even though it's like as a whole, like as a group, they're one, but as individuals, you get to focus in on them and pay attention to like, their specific stories. And also the fact that, a poem is crafted to their specific nature of their story and they don't all look the same. I know a lot of, you read a lot of poems and they kind of all are like, no matter what the subject matter is, poets have their styles and they kind of write sort of, in those distinct styles for every subject matter. And I'm really interested in crafting the poem and how the poem is supposed to look around the character or the person and the personality. So yeah.
So it basically just helps set the tone for the story.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
I have a question. Has anything that's been happening recently, like the protests, the presidency, and different situations, impacted any of your writing, either that you've written before or plan to write?
Yeah. So I actually started back when Ahmaud Arbery died. I started writing. I was like, because I don't usually deal with the police brutality cases individually like that. Just because the videos are very traumatic. I don't usually do that content in my poetry because I don't know, to me it becomes permanent and I don't like to like harp on those videos too much. But I did this time around. I was like, okay, I sort of treated it almost like therapy. So I went into it writing a sonnet. I was like trying to write a sonnet a week for not only Ahmaud Arbery, but every video that I've seen of Black men or Black people being brutalized. And so I started, I sort of stopped a little bit now that school started. But I was writing like a sonnet a week. And I treated every sonnet almost like putting myself in therapy for having to sort of see these images. And so that was what I was doing essentially as we moved into online last semester, and then also going into summer. Of course, it slowed down now that I'm back in school, but I plan to continue it and continue that little sonnet series.
Ahmaud what? Sorry?
Oh, Ahmaud Arbery.
Auburn.
So it looks like we have time for another question or two. So did anybody have a question they'd like to pose?
Who is your favorite YouTuber?
So okay, so there's nobody popular. I usually gravitate more towards the smaller YouTubers. And then by small, I mean like they have like 100,000 or less for their subscribers. So I follow this one girl named Surin Sensei. I really like her work. She's also a writer, and also she works in a film as well. She does like documentaries on her. She does like a lot of commentary. She started back when Ferguson happened, and she just felt compelled to talk about the issues going on back then. I was watching her ever since. And then she started transitioning into also doing like, she does these like little Black history facts and like these documentaries about Black women in history that people don't really talk about. She likes to do that. She also does like documentaries on, she has this documentary series called The Black Americans, where she goes around and she's like documenting the lives of Black people across the states. You know, she travels to different people across the states who will have her and talk about what's going on in their cities with the Black people there. She's also transitioning into doing a short film. And so I've been watching her for a lot. She's probably my favorite YouTuber. And she's got like 40,000 subscribers. So she's kind of small. To me, that's big, but that's small in comparison to other people. So yeah, it's nobody like big that you would probably know, but her name is Surin Sensei. So I think it's like Sensei Ashimatsu. But she also writes reviews as well. She does reviews on her channel. She really likes to stick to like Black media, Black movies, Black music. So she kind of does the same thing that I'm doing a little bit. But yeah, I really enjoyed her work. I really always enjoy her work.
I know you mentioned earlier that you enjoy cinematography. Are there any movies where the cinematography sticks out specifically to you?
Let me think. What's one movie like I like? There's a lot. I'm really enjoying. Okay, so I'm saying what I like right now. So I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying Lovecraft Country. I don't know if you've heard of. Lovecraft Country. So it's being produced by Jordan Peele, but it's being directed, and the show is being ran and being written by Misha Green. And also J.J. Abrams is on the project as well. During putting up the money, both of them putting up the money for her project. It's a limited series, and so I went and got that. I went and got HBO for that. So yeah, it's gonna hurt my pockets later, but I'm really enjoying like the cosmic horror. Like I'm into really dark things. So the cosmic horror genre that she's playing with in there, the cinematography is amazing. The actors are amazing in that. Other movies that I really enjoyed. I'm trying to think of other movies that I really enjoyed the cinematography on. I don't know. I was really into, like, I really enjoy like Matrixy types, like the Matrix. I enjoyed that series. Maybe and even the last one. I enjoyed a lot of Tarantino stuff. I think people consider him problematic, but I enjoy his cinematography. They consider him problematic, but I enjoy his cinematography and what he does with the camera and how he focuses in on characters. What else? I enjoy Spike Lee's cinematography. I'm not a big fan of Spike Lee. Spike Lee, because Spike Lee deals in a lot of respectability politics. Like I said before, I'm not really a fan of that. So he's a very respectability politics person. So even though I don't really agree with like a lot of the messaging of his movies, I think he is a genius in terms of like the way that he shoots Black characters and the way that he portrays his characters. Like I really love the way that he shoots a lot of his scenes. Um, I'm trying to think of somebody else. I think that's about as that's about as far as I can probably go right now. But yeah.
So I guess the big question before we run out of time is, so do you think of your poetry as activism?
Yeah, I think of it as activism. I think that I think that there are limitations, of course. I don't know if it's like on the same level as actually getting out in the street and actually doing that, hard political work. But I do think that it is a form of resistance. I think that, you know, I sort of I always put a caveat in terms of how much poetry can do and how much art can do. There have been Black artists before me. I always say there have been Black artists before me. There'll be Black artists after me. Black people have been doing this for a very long time, and so and we're still kind of fighting the same things. But I still feel compelled to be in that space and in that sort of fight and still doing the work. I don't know. I think that even activism has some level of that as well. Like activism, you might not even make any gains or get any wins for a very long time or ever, but you still feel compelled to be in that fight and to do the work. And I feel like the same thing goes for my poetry as well. Even though, I enjoy it, I treat it as therapy. Even though it's in protest, it's also therapy for me as well, to sort of cope with what's going on. And I still feel compelled, even though it might not change anything, I still feel compelled to do it because I still feel compelled to be, in fight and in opposition to the status quo, and, and also stand up for Black people as well, and also give them a voice, and also because I think one thing that I really got into poetry and, YouTube and all that stuff for is because I didn't see a lot of, myself or people that look like me in these spaces. And so I felt like there needed to be more. So I guess that's why I'm also compelled to do it, because even if it's not going to like be this big thing that transforms anything, at least, I added, something to there. At least I added another Black face, in these spaces.
And I, for one, am so happy and like thankful and gracious for you and I believe so. Your poetry, yes, it does. It is an act of activism, and it is important. Representation is important, and yes, just like small ripples become big waves eventually. It just takes a lot of time, unfortunately, sometimes. But thank you so much for taking the time to share your art and your activism, your passions, your personal life. I think it was like a really amazing conversation, and there's a lot of deep topics that we touched on and a lot of good questions that were posed. And so I just want to thank everybody for a really invigorating conversation that we were able to come together and have today. So big thanks to our speaker, Jabar. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask again, is it okay if I share your email address with any students that would like to contact you and talk about anything further beyond what happened here today?
Yeah.
Awesome. So if anybody would like to reach out to Jabar, don't forget I have the links for his book and his YouTube up on our Canvas. And I'm also happy to share his email address if anybody would like to speak with him more one-on-one. So thank you again, Jabar, and thank you to everybody. Have a lovely weekend. Stay safe and healthy. And I'll be sending you an email shortly, and see you guys on Wednesday. And thank you so much, Jabar. I'll be sending you an email shortly, too.
Thank you guys for having me.
Have a great weekend, y'all.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jabar.
Guys. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, Jabar.
Yes.
I was just going to ask, are you interested in like the Castlevania series?
The Castlevania?
That's all I'm needing.
Yeah, like the
I've
third.
heard about it, but I haven't actually delved into it. But I have wanted to watch it, but I haven't had the time. But yeah, is it good?
Yeah, the third season. Yeah, I like it. The third season is a very sort of cosmic I wouldn't say horror-y, but very cosmic. But I hate how it ends. It's not like bad writing.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know if you ever seen it, but No Country for Old Men is just not a happy ending.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, have you seen Pulp Fiction?
Yeah. Pulp Fiction.
I love that movie. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, I
It's
was
a
just
pretty
making.
interesting one.
I'm a Dusk Till Dawn fan myself.
Dusk Till Dawn is pretty good.
Which one?
That's also a very weird one as well. Dusk Till Dawn.
I haven't heard of that one. What was it called?
From Dusk Till Dawn.
All right.
That's
Okay.
like
Very like trigger warning.
I seen worse, like Sin
Okay.
City. Have you ever heard of Sin City?
Oh yes, I've seen that
That
too.
was
Yeah.
that was a movie.
That's a good one
But
too.
I need to go get some stuff done. So,
All
but
right,
thank
thank
y'all.
you.
It was very interesting hearing from you, Jabar. So have a good day and weekend.
You too.
All right. Thanks, Jabar. You're awesome. I owe you so big. Let's go out for lunch one day.
Problem. Yeah, this is really good. I thought they were gonna be quiet, but they were good.
Yeah, they were great. They were great. And I recorded all these, so like I'll send them to you so you can have for your own professionalization. And I'm probably going to create a little website for this series where I'm going to put all this stuff up, and I'll send you the links for that too. So that way you can use it on your CVs and stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend. I'll message you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Yay.